This is another podcast from Alpha Business Media.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You know how this works? You send us the sources, the articles, your notes, and we dive right in. We pull out the key insights for you. Today, we're tackling something really interesting and honestly quite complex: scaling a business. Specifically, the hidden challenges entrepreneurs face when they try to scale up in Nepal. We're working from an article here that identifies 5 major pitfalls, things that trip up ambitious founders as they move past that initial startup phase. So, our mission today: let's unpack these 5 mistakes, understand why there's such specific hurdles in Nepal, and, real importantly, look at the strategies the source suggests for actually navigating them. Because, sailing principles might seem global, but the actual ground you're building on, that changes everything.
It really does. In Nepal, well, it's fascinating ground. The article highlights this incredible entrepreneurial energy, which is fantastic to see, but it doesn't shy away from the systemic issues either. You've got an economy heavily influenced by remittances, right? That can sometimes mean a less solid foundation for domestic business investment compared to other places. And startups, they often thrive being agile, maybe a bit informal, but scaling up. That means engaging with bureaucracy, with infrastructure, and it's not always predictable. That transition itself brings up these unique challenges.
Okay, let's jump into the first one then. The article calls it mistake number 1, underestimating the local landscape. And we're not talking scenery, right? What exactly does the source mean by local landscape here?
Exactly. It's the operational and regulatory terrain. The source points to things like political and regulatory instability. Think frequent policy shifts, rules not always applied consistently. That makes long-term planning really, really difficult, like trying to hit a moving target. And as you grow, you definitely hit more bureaucratic red tape. It just slows things down compared to being a small startup.
Right. More formal means more friction sometimes.
Precisely. And then there are the infrastructure gaps, which are huge. We all hear about Nepal's hydropower potential, but businesses, they still deal with power outages. That means relying on expensive generators, which just eats into your profits. And logistics. Outside the main cities, poor transport makes it incredibly costly and complex to move goods.
Okay, so physical infrastructure is a major hurdle.
Absolutely. And don't forget the digital landscape. This is crucial. National stats might look okay for internet overall, but other data, like from the Living Standards Survey, shows this massive digital divide. You could have almost 80% access in cities like Kathmandu, but maybe only 17% or so in some rural areas. Look, province-wise, Bagmati near 60%, Karnali down at 14%.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
It is. It means a purely online strategy just won't work for nationwide scaling. Businesses need hybrid models. Think online plus offline agents, like Isewa did. That's how you reach everyone.
So it's the rules, how they're applied, the physical stuff, and the digital access. That's a lot.
Exactly. And the article stresses this hits scaling SMEs hardest. Micro businesses might stay informal. Big corporations have resources, but it's the ones in the middle, the ones scaling up, that feel this friction the most. The real cost of doing business often gets underestimated because of these hidden drains. The source also flags political instability and corruption as risks, adding unexpected costs or delays, sometimes needing, political capital, or just building in risk premiums. It just speaks to the environment.
Okay, so if the landscape is that tricky, how does the article say entrepreneurs can avoid falling into this trap?
It really boils down to deep homework and being adaptable. First, truly understanding the local reality, not just national level, but province, even local levels. Before you expand, real due diligence. Second, building strong local networks is key. Engaging with government bodies, business groups, community leaders. That helps navigate the system and get real insights. Third, resilience baked into the business model. Backup power, maybe diversified supply chains, not relying on just one thing. The source also mentions strategically looking into government programs, but understanding their actual impact. And finally, phase geographic expansion. Master one region, learn its specific quirks, adapt your model, then think about expanding further. Don't try to conquer the whole country at once.
Master complexity locally first. Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears. Pitfall number 2, the capital quagmire. Financing is tough everywhere, but what makes it a unique quagmire in Nepal, according to the source?
Well, the article highlights a real lack of diverse funding options. Entrepreneurs are often heavily reliant on traditional bank loans. And for these growing SMEs, those loans often come with pretty steep interest rates. The article mentions around 16%. Plus, and this is critical, tough collateral requirements. Many businesses, especially tech ones, without many physical assets, just can't meet them.
So the banks want assets the businesses don't necessarily have.
Exactly. The PE and VC scene, it's still very nascent, very young. Access is limited, and it tends to favor businesses that are already quite established. It's not a common path for many scaling companies. The article also notes, importantly, that even if funding were easier to get, many businesses haven't really nailed their unit economics, which makes them unattractive to investors anyway.
Oh, okay.
And then there's FDI, foreign direct investment. Policy improvements are happening, like automated approval for IT, which is good, but hurdles like profit repatriation issues still exist for other sectors.
So it's like the traditional system doesn't quite fit and the new system isn't fully there yet.
That's a good way to put it. There's this mismatch. Banks like secured lending, but many new businesses are asset-light. That's why you hear calls, like from Dr. Satyendra Timilsina at the central bank mentioned in the source, for more cash flow-based lending. The system needs to catch up. Plus, you have that macro factor remittances make up a huge chunk of GDP, around 23%. Vital, yes, but it might mean less domestic capital floating around for productive business investment, pushing entrepreneurs back towards those few, often expensive, formal finance options.
Wow, okay. That really paints a picture of a quagmire. So how do entrepreneurs get through it? What steps does the source suggest?
It starts with really rigorous financial planning and effective bootstrapping early on, trying to minimize reliance on outside cash and hold on to equity. Then, intensive work on unit economics. The article really hammers this home. You have to know your numbers, define your unit, track your customer acquisition costs, cheek, track your customer lifetime value, LTV, your margins, your payback period.
LTV needs to be higher than cake, right?
Much higher, ideally. The goal is proving your core business model is profitable before you scale it, aiming for something like a 3-to-1 ratio of LTV to CAC, or even better. That's what investors look for, and it's crucial for sustainability. Beyond that fundamental work, it's about being smart with the capital that is out there. Researching specialized SME credit products, maybe from banks like Himalayan Bank mentioned in the source. Understanding government loan schemes, but being realistic about how easy they are to actually access. For those seeking equity, it means understanding the PEVC landscape, even if it's small. Going to events like the Nepal Investment Summit, engaging with groups like the Nepal Private Equity Association.
So prepare meticulously and explore all avenues, even the nascent ones.
Exactly. And understand that shift towards cash flow lending. Position your business to fit that model if possible. And for IT businesses, definitely leverage those newer, easier FDI rules.
All right, capital covered. Well, how to the third pitfall. People and process gridlock. How do talent and just how things get done become bottlenecks during scaling?
Oh, this is a huge one. The source is quite direct. There's a significant shortage of skilled labor in Nepal. And this becomes really acute when you're trying to scale up complex operations. It's made worse by what the article calls the exodus of young people seeking opportunities abroad. A real brain drain, depleting the talent pool, especially for technical and managerial roles.
That's tough.
It is. And then you have the internal challenge, the founder's trap. As the company grows, founders often struggle to let go, to delegate. The source cites data suggesting over half of founders find delegation hard. They end up becoming bottlenecks themselves, micromanaging decisions. This holds back the team's growth, stifles initiative, and honestly, it just leads to burnout for everyone, founder included.
I can see that.
And tied into this is the lack of formal standard operating procedures, or SOPs. What worked fine informally with a small team just descends to chaos when you scale. Without clear, written processes, you get inconsistency, mistakes increase, and training new people becomes really hard and inefficient, especially painful when talent is scarce to begin with.
So it sounds like a bit of a cycle. Talent is scarce, maybe founders don't trust easily, so they micromanage, which stops processes from developing, which makes it harder to train people.
You've got it. The source links the founder's trap partly to that perceived lack of qualified staff, feeding the micromanagement. And with high potential turnover from brain drain, maybe founders hesitate to invest heavily in training or delegation. Even though SOPs and delegation are exactly what you need for knowledge transfer and building institutional memory in that kind of high turnover environment. Plus, remember the capital constraint from mistake two, investing in competitive salaries or good training programs to attract and keep talent. That takes capital, which is expensive or hard to get, which, guess what, can fuel a brain drain even more. It's all connected.
Okay, a definite gridlock. How does the source suggest breaking free?
Several key strategies. First, a real commitment to internal training and skills development. The article mentions companies like Fuse Machines developing specialized AI skills in-house, as an example. You have to build your own talent sometimes. Second, founders need to consciously evolve. Strategic delegation isn't just handing off tasks, it's empowering people with responsibility for whole projects or areas, focusing on results, not controlling every step.
Letting go, basically.
Essentially, yes. Third, implementing solid, reliable SOPs for key processes. Non-negotiable. They ensure consistency, efficiency, easier onboarding, quality control, compliance. Fourth, building a culture where continuous improvement and learning are valued. And finally, using technology smartly. Automating routine tasks to free up your skilled people for more strategic work. The article gives examples like hotel management systems automating front desk tasks.
Right, using tech to ease the human resource pressure. Okay, these pitfalls are really stacking up. Let's hit pitfall number 4, shifting sands of demand. So you found product market fit initially, but the source says that's not enough when you scale.
That's the core idea, yeah. The mistake is assuming that initial fit you found, maybe in a specific niche or city, will just automatically work everywhere as you grow. What appeals to early adopters might not work for the mainstream market, or customers in a different province might have totally different needs or purchasing power. If you don't keep evolving your value proposition, that initial fit just erodes.
Okay, so fit isn't static.
Definitely not. And tied right back into this is, you guessed it, unit economics. We keep coming back to this. Scaling a business where it costs you more to acquire a customer than that customer is worth over their lifetime, where CAC is higher than LTV, is just scaling your losses. It's unsustainable. And the article makes a pretty sharp observation here. It says, many Nepali entrepreneurs tend to operate on assumptions rather than hard data when it comes to market research. That lack of data means you might be scaling something that just isn't economically viable for a larger market.
Right, scaling based on hope, not numbers.
Kind of, yeah. And achieving nationally scalable product market fit in Nepal. That's particularly tough because, as we talked about with mistake 1, the market is so diverse and fragmented. Needs, income levels, digital literacy, they vary massively. Your product likely needs significant adaptation for different regions. And sometimes there's pressure, maybe from hype, maybe because capital is tight and you feel you need to show rapid growth, to scale too quickly. This can lead entrepreneurs to ignore those warning signs in their unit economics or claim product market fit before they've really proven it. That growth at any cost mindset is super dangerous, especially where follow-on funding isn't guaranteed.
So external pressure can compound the problem.
It can. The article also touches on a cultural nuance, mentioning a potential lack of transparency, maybe some hesitation to openly discuss business models or challenges. This could hinder that vital iterative feedback loop you need to keep refining product market fit based on real data.
Okay, so how do you avoid getting caught in these shifting sands? How do you stay aligned with customers as you grow? Continuous vigilance, really. First, ongoing market research and customer feedback. Don't rely on what you thought you knew last year. Get real-time data. Second, be ready for value proposition iteration. That means being willing and able to adapt your product, your service, based on what the market and the data are telling you. Don't be too precious about the original idea. Third, strict, relentless monitoring of unit economics. Know your numbers inside out. Define your unit, track, CAC, LTV, margins, payback period. Aim for that healthy LTV-SAC ratio, like 3-to-1 or better. Make sure customers are willing to pay. CAC stays below LTV and the market's big enough.
Data.
Absolutely. Data-driven decisions for product, pricing, marketing. And the source references models like Ash Maurya's, basically saying you need to nail your problem-solution fit, prove you're solving a real problem people care about before you pour resources into scaling product market fit. Get the foundation right first.
Okay, final hurdle. Pitfall number 5, digital clutter. We hear constantly about going digital. How can that be a mistake? It's not going digital, it's how you go digital. The mistake highlighted is haphazard digital transformation, just throwing technology at problems without a clear strategy or goal. The article cites figures suggesting almost 2/3 of digital projects start without a real action plan. That leads to wasted money and effort. And worse, it says a huge chunk, like 76%, actually fail to meet customer needs because they're designed based on internal company thinking, not what the customer actually wants or needs.
So tech for tech's sake, not for the customer's sake.
Exactly. Another big piece is insufficient localization, failing to adapt digital tools for the Nepali context. Language, user interface, cultural nuances, payment methods people actually use, the right kind of support. And remember, the digital divide from mistake 1, that's huge here. A slick app designed for someone in Kathmandu with great internet won't work for someone in a rural area with low literacy and spotty connection. Businesses might also underutilize existing local platforms like Daraz for selling, or Isewa and Kalti for payments, which already have massive reach and user trust. Why reinvent the wheel sometimes?
right? Leverage what's already working locally.
Yeah. Plus, you have issues like poor data management, data stuck in different systems, not being analyzed properly. And again, the skills gap, not having people who can actually manage and utilize newer technologies like AI effectively. There can also be pressure, maybe from initiatives like Digital Nepal, to just digitize quickly.
Hmm.
But rushing without proper planning often leads to failure. The article points to global stats showing high failure rates for big digital projects.
So it's about being strategic, context-aware, and capable, not just buying software.
Precisely. The strategies the source suggests focus on strategic, phased implementation. Don't boil the ocean. Use technology to solve specific business problems. Focus on the ROI. The article even talks about a phased, context-sensitive AI strategy. Start small, prove value, and make it customer-centric. Always start with a customer need or pain point. Then find the tech solution. Effective localization is absolute critical. Nepali-friendly interfaces, integrating local payment and logistics partners, designing for different levels of digital literacy.
Learning from others helps too, I imagine.
Definitely. Learn from the local successes. How did DSOA build trust with agents? How does Duraz handle logistics? How does Foodmandu manage deliveries? Also learn from failures, if you can find that information. Investing in proper data management and analytics is vital to avoid those assumption traps. Address the digital skills gap through training. The source mentions Fuse Machine's AI training again. And given Paul's high mobile use, the article cites strong mobile broadband and 4G numbers. Prioritizing mobile-first strategies makes a lot of sense.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to navigate. The complex local landscape, the capital quagmire, the people and process gridlock, those shifting sands of demand, and avoiding digital clutter instead of truly enabling growth. You can really see how they all interlock.
They absolutely do. They feed into each other constantly. I think the core takeaway from the article's conclusion is about needing this dual mastery for scaling in Nepal. You need exceptionally strong internal capabilities, your team, your processes, your financial discipline, your evolving product. That's one side. But you also need this really keen sensitivity and adaptability to the external environment. With regulations, infrastructure challenges, cultural factors, economic shifts, you need both.
Internal strength and external awareness.
Exactly. And the common thread in avoiding all 5 pitfalls, according to the source, is something they call managerial absorptive capacity. It sounds a bit academic, but it just means how good a company's leaders are at recognizing valuable new information from outside, really understanding it, integrating it, and then using it to adapt to make better decisions. In a dynamic, sometimes unpredictable environment like Nepal's, being really good at learning and adapting. It's not optional, it's fundamental. Every single mistake we talked about really stems from a failure to properly grasp or adapt to some key piece of information, whether internal or external.
So learning and adapting is the meta skill.
That's a great way to put it. The source emphasizes that approaches like incrementalism, step-by-step growth, and building deep resilience are crucial strategic imperatives, maybe even more so than in stable, resource-rich markets. Big, risky, big bang scaling attempts. Much harder to pull off when capital is tight and things can change quickly. Phased growth, building the capacity to handle shocks, that's the path the article suggests, is validated by the local companies that have succeeded. It shows it is possible, despite the challenges.
That's a really powerful way to synthesize it. So by truly understanding these specific pitfalls unique to the context and building that core capacity to learn and adapt, entrepreneurs definitely boost their chances, not just to survive, but to really thrive and make a difference in Nepal's future.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought for you listening, given how vital this managerial absorptive capacity, this ability to learn and adapt, seems to be in Nepal's specific scaling journey. Consider this. Where in your own work or your own organization, regardless of the challenges you face, are you intentionally building mechanisms, systems, processes, even just cultural norms to help you learn faster, absorb new information better, and adapt more effectively?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the complexities of scaling a business in Nepal. We hope unpacking these 5 specific pitfalls and the strategies the source material suggests offered some valuable perspective. Maybe reflecting on the need for continuous adaptation, that relentless focus on unit economics, or the wisdom of phased implementation gives you insights you can apply to your own challenges, whatever you might be. Understanding these complex environments is always, always valuable.